Patrick Russell stood before the towering gates of the Rizian capital on Zordax, his jaw clenched as he faced the prospect of winning the Galactic Empire's ugly princess. The former Earth Special Forces soldier had come to prove humanity's worth in the annual Cosmic Challenge, a competition designed by the Empire to mock and humiliate lesser species. As the gates creaked open, Patrick's eyes widened at the sight of the opulent Rizian architecture. Gleaming spires stretched impossibly high, their smooth surfaces reflecting the light of twin suns. Advanced technology buzzed and hummed all around him, a stark contrast to the familiar Earth tech hidden within his modified competition gear. Tall, blue-skinned Rizians stared and pointed, their laughter echoing through the streets. Patrick squared his shoulders, ignoring their taunts, as he made his way to the registration area. He knew the stakes were high. Failure in any of the 3 trials meant immediate disqualification and planetary enslavement. A shadow fell across Patrick's path. He looked up to see Prince Xander, the 7-foot-tall Rizian royal, sneering down at him. "Welcome, human," Xander said, his voice dripping with disdain. "I hope you're prepared to lose spectacularly." Patrick met the prince's gaze. "I'm here to win," he stated flatly. Xander's laughter boomed. "Win? The hand of Princess Lyra? Trust me, human, that's no prize. But don't worry, you'll never get close enough to see just how unattractive she truly is." As Xander sauntered away, Patrick overheard hushed conversations among the other contestants. They spoke of superhuman abilities and centuries of training. The human's chances seemed to shrink with each passing moment. That night, as Patrick made final adjustments to his gear, he caught snippets of a conversation from a nearby balcony. Prince Xander's voice carried on the wind. "Rig the trials against the human. He'll be humiliated, enslaved, and humanity will know its place." Patrick's hands stilled on his equipment. The Empire's plan was clear now. This wasn't just about him. His performance would shape the Galactic Empire's perception of all of humanity. With renewed determination, Patrick worked through the night, integrating scavenged Earth technology into his competition gear. As dawn broke, he stood ready, his modified equipment a testament to human ingenuity. The first trial loomed before him, a test of physical prowess that would push him to his limits. Alien contestants with superhuman strength and speed gathered at the starting line, their confidence palpable. Patrick took his place among them, acutely aware of the eyes of the Empire upon him. He knew that the next few days would determine not just his fate, but potentially the future of human-Rizian relations. As the starting signal blared, Patrick surged forward, his enhanced gear giving him a fighting chance against his superhuman competitors. The Cosmic Challenge had begun, and with it, humanity's bid for respect in the Galactic Empire. The ugly princess could wait. First, Patrick had a point to prove. The starting signal blared, and Patrick surged forward, his enhanced gear giving him a fighting chance against his superhuman competitors. In an instant, the world around him blurred and shifted. When his vision cleared, he found himself standing at the edge of a dense alien jungle. The sudden change in environment caught Patrick off guard, but his military training kicked in immediately. He scanned his surroundings, taking in the towering trees with iridescent leaves, the thick undergrowth pulsing with bioluminescent fungi, and the cacophony of alien wildlife echoing through the air. A holographic announcement materialized above the contestants. "Welcome to the Lunar Jungle Arena. Your objective? Reach the finish line within the time limit. Survival is your responsibility." As the other contestants began to disperse, Patrick activated his modified gear. A heads-up display flickered to life, overlaying his vision with environmental data and threat assessments. He took a deep breath, the filtered air tasting of ozone and exotic flora. Movement above caught his attention. A sleek, floating platform drifted into view, carrying a figure that made Patrick's breath catch in his throat. Princess Lyra stood at the edge, her lavender skin shimmering in the dappled light of the jungle canopy. Her large, iridescent eyes surveyed the arena with keen interest. Patrick blinked, momentarily stunned. This was the ugly princess? Her lithe form was adorned with intricate, glowing patterns that pulsed in harmony with the bioluminescent life around her. She was, without a doubt, the most beautiful being he had ever seen. Shaking off his surprise, Patrick refocused on the task at hand. His gear detected a poisonous mist creeping through the underbrush to his left, and he quickly changed course. As he navigated through the treacherous terrain, he noticed other contestants struggling with the environment. Some fell victim to carnivorous plants that snapped shut with lightning speed, while others sank into hidden quicksand pits. Patrick's earth-honed survival skills served him well. He moved efficiently, using his gear to identify safe paths and avoid dangers. However, he soon noticed a pattern in the hazards he encountered. Poisonous creatures seemed to appear in his path more frequently than near other contestants. Unstable ground crumbled beneath his feet with suspicious regularity. His suspicions were confirmed when he overheard a nearby Rizian official speaking into a communication device. Increased difficulty in Sector 7 Alpha. The human is progressing too quickly. Anger flared in Patrick's chest, but he channeled it into grit. He pressed on, adapting to each new challenge thrown his way. Halfway through the course, Patrick encountered a strange sight. A gelatinous, translucent being struggled to move across a particularly rough patch of terrain. Its body quivered and stretched, clearly not designed for land locomotion. Patrick approached cautiously. "Need a hand?" he asked, surprising himself with the offer. The alien's body rippled, and a voice emanated from within. "Assistance appreciated," it burbled. "I am Zaxxleon of Hydros." "Patrick Russell, Earth," he replied, helping the jellyfish-like being navigate the obstacle. As they moved forward together, Patrick found that Zaxxleon's knowledge of alien biology complemented his own physical capabilities. Together, they overcame challenges that would have stymied either of them alone. Their cooperation didn't go unnoticed. Other contestants began to watch the unlikely pair with a mixture of curiosity and grudging respect. From her viewing platform, Princess Lyra leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the human with growing interest. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook violently. The very landscape began to shift and crumble. Genetically engineered predators burst from the undergrowth, their eyes gleaming with murderous intent. "This is Xander's doing," Patrick growled, recognizing the prince's handiwork in the escalating chaos. He quickly assessed the situation and called out to nearby contestants, "Group up! We'll have a better chance if we work together." To his surprise, several aliens heeded his call. Patrick found himself leading a diverse group of contestants through the rapidly disintegrating jungle. He used his gear to plot the safest course, while the others contributed their unique abilities to overcome obstacles. As they neared the final stretch, Patrick spotted the brutish form of Grax, the four-armed Titan Prime native, pulling ahead. The alien's massive muscles bulged as he tore through the landscape with raw power. Patrick pushed himself harder, his modified gear straining to keep up with his enhanced pace. He was neck and neck with Grax when he saw the alien's eyes narrow with malice. Grax reached out with two of his arms and struck a nearby cliff face. The impact sent a cascade of boulders tumbling down towards Patrick. Time seemed to slow. Patrick's military training and enhanced reflexes took over. He leaped, twisted, and rolled, narrowly avoiding the falling rocks. As the dust settled, he found himself on the other side of the rock slide, with Grax trapped behind the debris. With a final burst of speed, Patrick crossed the finish line, collapsing to his knees as the trial's end was announced. As he caught his breath, Patrick became aware of the stunned silence around him. The Rizian spectators stared in disbelief. Prince Xander's face was contorted with fury, and Princess Lyra, she was looking directly at him, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Patrick had survived the first trial, but he knew this was just the beginning. As he was led away to recover, he overheard a conversation that made his heart race. "Did you see the human, Your Highness?" a handmaiden whispered to Princess Lyra. "He was impressive." "Indeed," the princess replied, her voice thoughtful. "But I wonder, are our species even compatible, especially when it comes to mating practices?" Patrick's mind reeled with this new information. He had entered the cosmic challenge to prove humanity's worth, but now he found himself facing an unexpected complication, an interspecies attraction that could shake the very foundations of the Galactic Empire. As he was escorted to the recovery area, Patrick couldn't help but wonder what new challenges, both in the arena and beyond, awaited him in the trials to come. As Patrick caught his breath in the recovery area, his mind raced with the implications of Princess Lyra's overheard conversation. The unexpected attraction added a layer of complexity to his already daunting mission. However, he had little time to dwell on these thoughts as a holographic announcement materialized before him. Attention contestants! The second trial commences in 1 hour. Prepare yourselves for the labyrinth of minds. Patrick's gear, still warm from the jungle trial, hummed as he ran diagnostics and made minor adjustments. He couldn't shake the feeling that the next challenge would push him to his mental limits. As he entered the arena for the second trial, Patrick found himself facing an enormous structure that seemed to defy physics. The maze before him shimmered and shifted, its walls a kaleidoscope of changing patterns and colors. "Welcome to the labyrinth of minds," boomed a disembodied voice. "Your objective? Reach the center. Your tools, your wits. Good luck." Patrick stepped into the maze, and immediately the world around him transformed. He found himself in a replica of an Earth city, complete with honking cars and bustling sidewalks. A puzzle materialized in front of him, displaying a complex series of traffic patterns. "Of course," Patrick muttered, recognizing the Earth-based challenge. He quickly solved the puzzle, using his knowledge of urban planning and traffic flow. As the holographic city faded, he caught a glimpse of alien contestants struggling with the unfamiliar concepts. Moving deeper into the maze, Patrick encountered a series of challenges based on Earth's history, literature, and science. He navigated through a reconstruction of the Egyptian pyramids, deciphered codes based on Shakespeare's plays, and solved puzzles using principles of quantum mechanics. As he progressed, Patrick became aware of a presence watching him. Glancing up, he saw Princess Lyra observing from a floating platform, her eyes fixed on his every move. Their gazes met briefly, and Patrick felt a jolt of electricity run through him. Rounding a corner, Patrick stumbled upon a familiar gelatinous form. Zaxxillion quivered in frustration before a holographic display of the periodic table. "Zaxxillion," Patrick called out, "need a hand?" The Hydrosian's body rippled with relief. "Patrick of Earth, your assistance would be most welcome." Patrick approached the puzzle, quickly recognizing it as a test of elemental properties and reactions. He began to explain the basics of the periodic table to Zaxxillion, pointing out patterns and relationships between elements. "Fascinating," Zaxxillion burbled. "Your species' understanding of atomic structure is impressive." As they worked together to solve the puzzle, Patrick noticed other alien contestants gathering around, listening intently to his explanations. Even Princess Lyra had moved her observation platform closer, her expression one of intense curiosity. With the puzzle solved, Patrick bid farewell to Zaxxillion and pressed on. The challenges grew more complex, but Patrick's quick thinking and diverse knowledge base served him well. He could feel the eyes of the Rizian officials on him, their surprise at his progress palpable. As he neared the center of the maze, Patrick encountered a massive door blocked by an intricate locking mechanism. A holographic message appeared. "This final challenge requires cooperation. Unite with another to proceed." Patrick scanned the area, spotting Grax, the Titan Prime native, approaching from another path. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. "Grax," Patrick called out, "I think we need to work together on this one." The four-armed alien grunted, but nodded in agreement. Together they examined the lock, quickly realizing it required simultaneous input from two different species. As they worked to decipher the lock's complex patterns, Patrick engaged Grax in conversation, asking about his homeworld and customs. The Titan Prime, initially reticent, gradually opened up, sharing insights about his species' culture. Their collaboration drew the attention of King Zorn, who watched from a royal viewing box with growing interest. The monarch leaned forward, stroking his chin thoughtfully as he observed the human's diplomatic skills in action. With a final click, the door swung open. Patrick and Grax exchanged a nod of mutual respect before parting ways to complete the trial individually. Emerging from the maze, Patrick found himself once again at the center of attention. Alien spectators murmured in amazement, while Rizian officials huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. As Patrick was escorted to the contestants' quarters, he caught sight of Prince Xander's face contorted with rage. The Rizian prince stormed towards him, his long strides eating up the distance between them. "You!" Xander hissed, jabbing a finger at Patrick's chest. "I warned you about the consequences of your eavesdropping. Withdraw now, or I'll make sure everyone knows about your little espionage act." Patrick stood his ground, meeting Xander's glare. "I have nothing to hide, Your Highness. I entered this competition to compete fairly and honorably, and that's exactly what I intend to do." The confrontation drew the attention of nearby contestants. Zaxxillian oozed closer, his gelatinous form quivering with indignation. Grax loomed behind Patrick, his massive arms crossed in a show of support. Xander's eyes darted between the assembled aliens, realizing he was quickly losing control of the situation. With a final snarl, he spun on his heel and stalked away. As the tension dissipated, Patrick found himself surrounded by his fellow contestants, each expressing their support and admiration. He had become more than just a competitor. He was now a symbol of resistance against the Empire's arrogance. Later that evening, as Patrick reviewed his performance in the privacy of his quarters, a soft chime indicated an incoming message. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the face of Princess Lyra. "Contestant Patrick," she said, her voice carrying a hint of nervousness, "I would like to request your presence for a formal interview with the top performers. Please report to the royal chambers at your earliest convenience." As the message ended, Patrick's heart raced. He knew this was more than a simple interview. With humanity's future in the balance, he steeled himself for what promised to be a pivotal encounter. As Patrick made his way to the royal chambers, his mind raced with possibilities. The princess's request for an interview seemed laden with unspoken intentions. Upon entering the opulent room, Patrick found Princess Lyra alone, her ethereal form illuminated by the soft glow of bioluminescent plants native to Regia. Her eyes met his, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension evident in their depths. "Contestant Patrick," she began, her voice carrying a hint of nervousness, "I appreciate your promptness." "Your Highness," Patrick replied with a respectful nod, "I'm honored by your invitation." Lyra gestured for him to sit, and as he did, she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "I must confess, this isn't merely about your performance in the trials. I find myself fascinated by your species, particularly by you." Patrick's heart raced, but he maintained his composure. "I'm flattered, Your Highness. Humans are equally intrigued by the diversity of life in the galaxy." Lyra's iridescent skin shimmered as she moved closer. "Tell me, Patrick, about human relationships. How do your people connect?" The directness of her question caught Patrick off guard. He chose his words carefully, aware of the delicate nature of the conversation. "Human relationships are complex, Your Highness. We value emotional connections, mutual respect, and physical compatibility." Lyra's eyes widened with interest. "Physical compatibility? I've heard rumors about human mating practices, but I'm uncertain. Are our species even capable of such intimacy?" Patrick felt heat rise to his cheeks. "It's a valid question, Your Highness. Truthfully, I'm not sure. Our physiologies are quite different." The princess nodded, her expression a mix of curiosity and trepidation. "I see. And how would humans typically proceed in such a situation?" "We'd start slowly," Patrick explained, his voice gentle. "Getting to know each other, understanding our differences and similarities. It's a process of discovery and mutual respect." Their conversation was interrupted by a thunderous announcement echoing throughout the palace. "Attention, all contestants. The final trial of the Cosmic Challenge will commence in one standard rotation. Prepare yourselves for the ultimate test of physical and mental endurance." Lyra's demeanor shifted, her royal mask slipping back into place. "It seems our time is cut short, Contestant Patrick. I wish you luck in the final trial." As Patrick left the royal chambers, his mind whirled with the implications of their conversation. However, he had little time to dwell on it as he focused on preparing for the grueling challenge ahead. The following day, Patrick stood at the entrance of a massive arena, its interior shimmering with holographic projections of various alien landscapes. The air buzzed with tension as contestants from across the galaxy readied themselves for the final trial. As the challenge began, Patrick found himself thrust into a series of hostile environments. He trudged through the methane swamps of Xylox Prime, scaled the gravity-warping cliffs of Neutronia, and navigated the plasma storms of the Zeta Reticuli system. His modified gear hummed and whirred, adapting to each new challenge. Halfway through the trial, Patrick's equipment suddenly sputtered and died. He recognized the telltale signs of sabotage, no doubt orchestrated by Prince Xander. Stripped of his technological advantages, Patrick was forced to rely solely on his military training and human adaptability. Despite this setback, he pressed on, his willpower drawing the attention of both spectators and fellow competitors. As he navigated a particularly treacherous holographic asteroid field, Patrick stumbled upon a group of alien contestants trapped in a simulated gravitational anomaly. Without hesitation, Patrick moved to assist them. Using his knowledge of physics and some improvised tools, he helped free the trapped aliens one by one. The act of selflessness was broadcast throughout the arena, eliciting murmurs of approval from the audience. As Patrick neared the final stage of the trial, a commotion erupted near the arena's edge. Prince Xander, his face contorted with rage, had entered the competition area. The Rizian prince charged towards Patrick, his intentions clear. "You've made a mockery of this challenge, human," Xander snarled, closing the distance between them. "I'll end your aspirations here and now." Patrick barely had time to react as Xander lunged at him. The two grappled, their struggle broadcast live across the Galactic Empire. Despite Xander's superior strength, Patrick's combat training allowed him to hold his own, deflecting blows and using the prince's momentum against him. As they fought, Patrick caught glimpses of the shocked faces of alien spectators. He realized that this moment would define not just his own fate, but potentially that of humanity's standing in the galaxy. Suddenly, a booming voice cut through the chaos. King Zorn, his face a mask of fury, appeared on the arena's main view screen. "Cease this disgraceful display at once," he commanded. Guards swarmed into the arena, separating Patrick and Xander. The king's voice resonated once more. "Prince Xander, you have brought shame upon our house and our empire. You are hereby disqualified from the cosmic challenge." A hush fell over the arena as King Zorn turned his attention to Patrick. "Human contestant, your bravery, skill, and honor have been witnessed by all. I declare you the winner of the cosmic challenge." The announcement sent shockwaves through the gathered aliens. Patrick stood in stunned silence as the implications of his victory sank in. He had not only proven his own worth, but had elevated humanity's standing in the eyes of the galaxy. As the arena erupted into a cacophony of cheers and debates, Patrick's gaze was drawn to the royal viewing box. There, Princess Lyra stood, her eyes locked on him, a mixture of admiration and uncertainty evident in her expression. Patrick knew that his journey, far from being over, was about to take an unexpected and potentially galaxy-altering turn. As the reality of his victory sank in, Patrick found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Alien dignitaries clamored for his attention, eager to learn more about the human who had defied expectations and emerged victorious. In the days that followed, Patrick's schedule became a blur of interviews, ceremonies, and diplomatic meetings. The Rizian royal court, initially skeptical of human capabilities, now viewed him with a mixture of curiosity and respect. King Zorn, impressed by Patrick's performance in the Cosmic Challenge, granted him an official position as a cultural liaison between Earth and the Galactic Empire. It was during one of these diplomatic functions that Patrick encountered Princess Lyra again. She approached him, her iridescent skin shimmering under the bioluminescent lights of the palace ballroom. "Contestant Patrick," she said, her voice carrying a hint of nervousness. "Or should I say, cultural liaison Patrick?" Patrick smiled, bowing slightly. "Your Highness, I'm honored by the new title, though I'm still adjusting to it." Lyra's eyes darted around the room before settling back on Patrick. "I was wondering if you might be interested in continuing our cultural exchange. There's still so much I'd like to learn about humans." Before Patrick could respond, A commotion near the entrance caught their attention. Prince Xander stormed into the ballroom, his face contorted with barely held back rage. The disgraced prince's gaze locked onto Patrick, his eyes burning with hatred. Lyra stepped closer to Patrick, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Be careful. Xander has been stripped of his royal duties, but he still has supporters in the court." Patrick nodded, keeping his expression neutral as Xander approached. The prince stopped mere inches from Patrick, his breath hot and acrid. "Enjoy your moment in the spotlight, human," Xander hissed. "It won't last." With that, he spun on his heel and stalked away, leaving a wake of whispers and uncertain glances in his path. Lyra touched Patrick's arm gently, drawing his attention back to her. "Perhaps we should begin our cultural exchange sooner rather than later. Would you join me in the royal gardens tomorrow?" Patrick agreed, and the next day found himself walking alongside the princess through a maze of alien flora. As they strolled, Patrick began introducing Lyra to various human customs, starting with simple gestures of affection. In many human cultures, holding hands is a sign of friendship or romantic interest, Patrick explained, slowly extending his hand. Lyra hesitated, her eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Slowly she reached out, her slender fingers intertwining with Patrick's. A small gasp escaped her lips at the contact. "It's warm," she said, wonder evident in her voice, and not at all unpleasant. As they continued their walk, Patrick demonstrated other human gestures, including friendly pats on the back and hugs. Lyra's initial hesitation gave way to enthusiasm as she embraced these new forms of interaction. However, when Patrick broached the subject of kissing, Lyra's reaction was markedly different. She recoiled, her skin flashing with patterns of distress. "Exchange oral fluids?" she exclaimed, her voice pitched higher than usual. "But that's potentially toxic." Patrick raised his hands in a calming gesture. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to alarm you. In human culture, kissing isn't seen as dangerous. It's actually considered quite pleasant." Lyra's expression remained skeptical, but her curiosity seemed to outweigh her initial revulsion. "Fascinating. Your species continues to surprise me, Patrick." As they made their way back to the palace, Patrick noticed a group of Rizian guards eyeing him warily. The growing closeness between him and the princess had not gone unnoticed, and it was clear not everyone approved. Later that evening, as Patrick prepared for bed in his quarters, a faint hissing sound caught his attention. Years of military training kicked in, and he immediately held his breath, recognizing the telltale signs of a gas attack. Moving swiftly, Patrick sealed the vents and made his way to the window. The synthetic atmosphere of Zordax swirled outside, a reminder of the alien world he now called home. With no other choice, Patrick smashed the window and leapt out, using his enhanced strength to cling to the palace's ornate exterior. As alarms blared and guards scrambled to respond, Patrick climbed to safety, his mind racing. This was no accident. Someone wanted him dead. The assassination attempt brought Patrick and Lyra closer together. The princess, visibly shaken by the near miss, insisted on providing him with advanced Rizian protection technology. "This personal shield will protect you from most forms of attack," Lyra explained, fastening a sleek device to Patrick's wrist. Her fingers lingered on his skin, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared concern. As news of the cultural exchange between Patrick and Lyra spread, delegations from other alien races began arriving on Zordax. Diplomats from across the Galactic Empire clamored to learn more about human customs and potentially forge their own alliances with Earth. Patrick found himself thrust into the role of unofficial ambassador, organizing demonstrations of human art, music, and sports. The events drew massive crowds, with aliens of all shapes and sizes, marveling at the creativity and physical prowess of humanity. During one such demonstration, as Patrick explained the rules of soccer to a group of fascinated diplomats, he caught sight of a familiar face lurking in the shadows. Prince Xander observed the proceedings with barely concealed contempt, his eyes never leaving Patrick. The human ambassador met Xander's gaze steadily, refusing to be intimidated. As he turned back to his audience, Patrick knew that the disgraced prince's vendetta was not nearly finished. The game of interstellar politics and cultural exchange was becoming more complex and dangerous with each passing day, and Patrick found himself at the very center of it all. As Patrick turned back to his audience, a deafening explosion ripped through the air. The ground shook violently, sending aliens and humans alike stumbling. Patrick's military instincts kicked in instantly. He scanned the area, spotting billowing smoke rising from the direction of the royal gardens. "Everyone, stay calm and move to the designated safety areas," Patrick shouted, his voice cutting through the panicked cries. Without hesitation, he sprinted towards the explosion site, his heart pounding. As he neared the gardens, he saw Princess Lyra stumbling out of the smoke, her iridescent skin dulled by ash and debris. "Lyra!" Patrick called out, rushing to her side. He wrapped an arm around her waist, supporting her weight as they moved away from the danger zone. "Patrick," Lyra coughed, her eyes wide with shock. "What happened?" Before he could respond, a second explosion rocked the area. Patrick instinctively shielded Lyra with his body, feeling the heat of the blast on his back. The personal shield Lyra had given him earlier hummed to life, deflecting most of the debris. Royal guards swarmed the area, their advanced weapons drawn. Patrick caught a glimpse of a figure fleeing the scene, a familiar silhouette that made his blood run cold. Prince Xander. Within minutes, Patrick and Lyra were whisked away to the palace's medical facility. As they were examined by Rizian doctors, King Zorn burst into the room, his face a mask of fury and concern. "Lyra, are you all right?" the king demanded, rushing to his daughter's side. "I'm fine, father," Lyra assured him, her voice stronger now. "Thanks to Patrick." King Zorn turned to Patrick, his expression softening slightly. "You have my gratitude, human. Your quick actions may have saved my daughter's life." As the medical staff continued their examinations, security footage of the incident was brought to the king's attention. The holographic display clearly showed Prince Xander planting the explosive devices moments before detonation. "Xander?" King Zorn growled, his fist clenching. "I want him found. Now, alert all security forces across the Empire. He will answer for this treachery." As news of the attack spread, the palace became a flurry of activity. Diplomats from various alien races sent messages of support, while Rizian citizens gathered outside, demanding justice for the attack on their princess. In the days that followed, Patrick and Lyra spent much of their time together in a secure wing of the palace. As they recovered from the ordeal, Lyra found herself drawn even closer to the human who had risked his life to protect her. One evening, as they sat in a private garden within the palace walls, Lyra turned to Patrick, her skin shimmering with a pattern he had come to recognize as nervousness. "Patrick," she began, her voice soft, "I've been thinking about our cultural exchange. I want to learn more about human courtship rituals. In detail." Patrick's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Are you sure? After everything that's happened?" Lyra placed a hand on his arm, sending a tingling sensation through his skin. "I'm sure. Life is precious and fleeting. I don't want to let fear hold me back anymore." Patrick nodded, a smile tugging at his lips. "Well, on Earth, we usually start with dating. It's a way for two people to spend time together and get to know each other better." "Dating," Lyra repeated, testing the word. "And what does this dating entail?" "It can be many things," Patrick explained. "Sharing a meal, watching entertainment, or just talking in a pleasant setting. The goal is to enjoy each other's company and see if there's a deeper connection." Lyra's skin rippled with excitement. "That sounds wonderful. Could we go on a date?" Patrick grinned. "I'd be honored, Your Highness." Given the security concerns, their first date was arranged in a holographically generated environment within the palace. Patrick worked with the Rizian technicians to recreate a romantic Earth setting, a cozy Italian restaurant overlooking a moonlit beach. As Lyra stepped into the simulated environment, her eyes widened in wonder. "This is Earth?" she breathed, taking in the sights and sounds. Patrick offered his arm, guiding her to a table set with candles and flowers. "A small piece of it, yes. I hope you like Italian cuisine." Throughout the meal, they talked and laughed, sharing stories of their respective cultures. Patrick found himself captivated by Lyra's quick wit and genuine curiosity about human ways. As the simulated sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the holographic beach, Lyra fell silent. Her skin shimmered with a pattern Patrick hadn't seen before. "Patrick," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "there's one human custom I've been curious about, but also afraid to try." Patrick's heart raced as he realized what she meant. "Kissing?" Lyra nodded, her eyes meeting his. I'd like to try it, if you're willing." Slowly giving her time to change her mind, Patrick leaned in. Lyra closed her eyes, her breath catching as their lips met. The kiss was gentle, tentative at first, but as seconds passed, Lyra leaned in, deepening the contact. When they finally parted, Lyra's skin was glowing with a brilliant, pulsating light. "That was incredible," she gasped, "and not toxic at all." Patrick laughed, relief and joy washing over him. "I'm glad you enjoyed it." As they left the holographic environment, hand in hand, neither of them noticed the hidden camera that had captured their intimate moment. Within hours, news of the human Rysian kiss would spread across the Empire, setting in motion a chain of events that would change the course of interstellar relations forever. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Zordax's sprawling undercity, Prince Xander seethed as he watched the footage of Patrick and Lyra's kiss. Surrounded by a growing number of discontented aliens, he began to formulate a plan that would shake the very foundations of the Galactic Empire. The footage of Patrick and Lyra's kiss spread like wildfire across the interstellar networks, igniting a firestorm of controversy and debate throughout the Rysian Empire. In the days that followed, Patrick and Lyra found themselves at the center of a political maelstrom. As they prepared for the upcoming Galactic Council hearing, the couple intensified their cultural exchange, determined to prove the value of human-Rysian relations. One evening, as they strolled through a secluded garden in the palace, Lyra turned to Patrick, her skin shimmering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "I want to learn more about human physical affection," she said softly. "Not just kissing, but everything." Patrick's heart raced as he gently took her hand. "Are you sure? There's no rush, Lyra." The princess nodded, her eyes meeting his with tenacity. "I'm sure. We need to understand each other completely if we're going to convince the Galactic Council." Over the next few days, Patrick introduced Lyra to various forms of human intimacy, from gentle caresses to passionate embraces. The princess's initial hesitation gave way to enthusiasm as she discovered the joy of physical connection. As the day of the hearing approached, tensions escalated throughout the Empire. Supporters of human-Rysian relations clashed with traditionalists who saw the relationship as a threat to Rysian purity. Security around Patrick and Lyra tightened as reports of potential threats poured in. Finally, the day arrived. Patrick, Lyra, King Zorn, and a delegation of human and Rysian representatives boarded a sleek interstellar cruiser bound for Nexus Prime. As they entered hyperspace, Patrick gazed out at the swirling vortex of light, acutely aware of the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Nexus Prime loomed before them, a glittering jewel of a planet crisscrossed with towering spires and bustling skyways. As their ship descended through the atmosphere, Patrick marveled at the diversity of alien life forms, scurrying about the sprawling metropolis. The Galactic Council chambers were a marvel of architecture, a vast amphitheater with transparent dome that offered a breathtaking view of the Nexus Prime skyline. As Patrick and Lyra entered, hand in hand, a hush fell over the assembled delegates. Hundreds of eyes, some with multiple pairs, focused on the human Rysian couple. King Zorn took his place at the podium, his voice resonating through the chamber as he formally opened the proceedings. Patrick stepped forward, his heart pounding as he began his presentation on humanity's potential contributions to the Galactic Empire. He spoke of Earth's rapid technological advancements, its rich cultural tapestry, and its people's adaptability and resourcefulness. As he outlined his vision for interspecies cooperation, Patrick could see many delegates nodding in approval. Lyra's testimony followed, her melodious voice filled with passion as she described her experiences with human customs. "Through my time with Patrick," she concluded, "I've come to realize that our differences are not barriers, but opportunities for growth and understanding." A murmur of discussion rippled through the chamber. Patrick allowed himself a moment of hope, but then chaos erupted. A high-pitched whine filled the air as a swarm of microscopic nanobots was released into the chamber. Alien delegates began to writhe and gasp, their bodies reacting violently to the invasive machines. Patrick's military training kicked in instantly. He spotted the telltale shimmer of the nanobot cloud and realized the danger. "Electromagnetic pulse!" he shouted to the Rizian security forces. "We need an EMP now!" Working feverishly with the Rizian technicians, Patrick helped construct a makeshift EMP device from components cannibalized from their communication equipment. With seconds to spare, they activated the pulse, sending a wave of energy through the chamber that short-circuited the nanobots. As the dust settled, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. Prince Xander, his eyes blazing with hatred, strode into the center of the chamber. "I challenge you, human," he spat, pointing a finger at Patrick. "For the honor of the Rizian Empire and the hand of Princess Lyra." King Zorn stepped forward, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. "By ancient Rizian law," he intoned gravely, "I must allow this challenge to proceed." Patrick nodded, his mind focused. "I accept." The duel took place in a hastily prepared arena within the council complex. Xander, his body visibly enhanced with illegal cybernetic implants, moved with inhuman speed and strength. Patrick found himself on the defensive, barely avoiding the prince's crushing blows. But as the fight wore on, Patrick began to notice patterns in Xander's attacks. The cybernetic enhancements made him predictable, relying too heavily on brute force. Patrick used his agility and quick thinking to outmaneuver the prince, gradually wearing him down. In a final, desperate lunge, Xander overextended himself. Patrick seized the opportunity, using a judo throw to slam the prince to the ground. With a precisely aimed strike, he disabled the main power conduit of Xander's cybernetic enhancements. The prince lay defeated, but alive. Patrick extended a hand to help him up, a gesture that drew gasps from the watching delegates. King Zorn stepped forward, his eyes shining with a mixture of pride and relief. "The human has proven himself worthy," he declared. "I hereby endorse the alliance between our peoples." As the Galactic Council reconvened, a new challenge emerged. Dr. Zik Savina, a renowned xenobiologist, presented data suggesting potential genetic complications from prolonged human-Rizian intimate contact. Patrick and Lyra exchanged a look, both understanding what needed to be done. "We volunteer," Patrick announced, "to undergo any tests necessary to prove our compatibility." The council chamber erupted in discussion. After hours of debate, a decision was reached. The final ruling on human-Rizian relations would be postponed until thorough medical examinations could be conducted. As Patrick and Lyra entered the medical facility on Nexus Prime, the princess turned to her human companion. "Whatever happens," she whispered, her skin glowing with a pattern Patrick now recognized as love, "we face it together." Patrick nodded, drawing her close. As the doors of the examination room slid open, they stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to unite their peoples and reshape the future of the Galactic Empire. The doors of the examination room slid open, revealing a pristine white interior filled with advanced medical equipment. Patrick and Lyra exchanged a look of purpose before stepping inside, their fingers intertwined. Dr. Zik Savina, a tall, slender alien with iridescent scales and 6 eyes, greeted them with a professional nod. "Welcome, Princess Lyra and Patrick. We'll begin with a comprehensive genetic mapping of your DNA." As they settled into specially designed chairs, Patrick felt a slight tingle as the genetic scanner activated. He watched in fascination as holographic displays flickered to life, showing intricate strands of DNA rotating slowly in the air. Hours passed as the scans progressed, punctuated by Dr. Zik Savina's occasional murmurs of interest. Finally, she turned to them, her eyes blinking in rapid succession. "Fascinating. Despite your outward differences, there are surprising similarities in your genetic structures." Lyra's skin rippled with a pattern of excitement. "What does this mean for our compatibility?" "It's promising," Dr. Zik Savina replied, her tone cautiously optimistic. but we'll need to conduct further tests to fully understand the implications. The next phase of testing involved a series of physical examinations. Patrick and Lyra found themselves in a large chamber filled with various simulation equipment. As they moved through different scenarios designed to test their physiological responses, Patrick couldn't help but notice Lyra's growing enthusiasm. During a break between tests, Lyra approached Patrick, her skin shimmering with a mix of nervousness and excitement. "I never imagined human mating practices could be so intriguing," she whispered. Patrick grinned, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. "Just wait until you experience the real thing," he teased gently. Their moment was interrupted by the arrival of King Zorn, his face etched with concern. "I've just received troubling news," he announced. "Xander has escaped custody on Zordax." Patrick's military instincts kicked in immediately. "What's being done to recapture him?" Before the king could respond, a nearby screen flared to life with a breaking news alert. Xander's face filled the display, his eyes burning with fanatical intensity. "My fellow Risians," he began, his voice dripping with venom, "do not be fooled by these so-called compatibility tests. They are a sham designed to contaminate our pure Risian bloodlines with inferior human genetics." As Xander's message spread across the galactic networks, reports of protests on several worlds began flooding in. King Zorn's expression grew grave. "I fear this situation may spiral out of control if we don't act quickly." Dr. Zixavina cleared her throat, drawing their attention. "Perhaps we can counter this misinformation with facts. I propose we accelerate our testing schedule and include a more intimate component." Lyra's skin flushed with a deep purple hue. "What exactly do you mean by intimate?" The xenobiologist explained her proposal for a controlled experiment involving kissing and gentle caressing while monitoring their physiological responses. Patrick watched Lyra carefully, ready to object if she showed any signs of discomfort. To his surprise, Lyra nodded firmly. "I'll do it, for the sake of our peoples and our future together." As they prepared for the experiment, Patrick could sense Lyra's nervous energy. He took her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "We don't have to do this if you're not comfortable," he whispered. Lyra's skin shimmered with commitment. "I want to, Patrick. I'm ready." Under the watchful eyes of Dr. Zixavina and her team, Patrick and Lyra began their intimate experiment. Their initial kisses were tentative, but as they continued, Patrick felt a surge of warmth spreading through his body. Lyra's skin began to glow with an intensity he had never seen before. Dr. Zixavina's eyes widened as she studied the readouts. "Extraordinary. Their biochemistries are interacting in ways I never anticipated. It seems the combination of human and Risian physiology is producing a synergistic effect." As news of the positive results spread, Patrick and Lyra found themselves at the center of a media storm. Reporters clamored for interviews, while diplomats from various worlds sought private audiences to discuss the implications of their compatibility. Amidst the chaos, Patrick and Lyra stole moments of privacy, exploring their newfound intimacy away from prying eyes. Lyra's initial hesitation had given way to enthusiastic curiosity, and Patrick found himself falling deeper in love with the Risian princess. On the final day of testing, Dr. Zixavina called them into her office, her expression unreadable. "I have something important to share with you," she began, her voice tinged with excitement. "Our data suggests that human Risian offspring could potentially possess enhanced physical and cognitive abilities." Patrick and Lyra exchanged stunned glances. The implications of this discovery were staggering, potentially reshaping the future of both their species. As they prepared to address the waiting crowd outside the medical facility, reports came in of Xander gathering a fleet on the fringes of Risian space. The threat of conflict loomed on the horizon, but Patrick pushed those thoughts aside as he took Lyra's hand. Together they stepped out to face the sea of reporters, diplomats, and curious onlookers. The future of the Galactic Empire hung in the balance, waiting for their next words and actions. Actions. The future of the Galactic Empire hung in the balance, waiting for their next words and gestures. Patrick took a deep breath, squeezing Lyra's hand gently as they faced the sea of expectant faces. The air buzzed with anticipation, holographic cameras hovering silently to capture every moment. People of Earth, citizens of the Risian Empire, and honored delegates of the Galactic Council, Patrick began, his voice clear and steady. We stand before you today with news that will reshape the future of our species and the galaxy at large. Lyra's skin shimmered with a pattern of excitement as she continued. The results of our compatibility tests have exceeded all expectations. Not only are humans and Risians genetically compatible, but our union holds the potential for remarkable advancements. A murmur rippled through the crowd as Dr. Zix stepped forward, her 6 eyes blinking rapidly as she addressed the assembled masses. Our research indicates that human Risian offspring may possess enhanced physical and cognitive abilities, representing a significant leap forward in our understanding of interspecies genetics. The crowd erupted in a cacophony of cheers, questions, and exclamations. Patrick watched as the news spread like wildfire across the galaxy, holographic displays showing celebrations breaking out on Earth and progressive worlds throughout the Empire. Within hours, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Patrick and Lyra stood before the august body, their hands clasped tightly as they awaited the verdict. The Council's decision was swift and decisive. Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Empire, and human-Risian relations were officially sanctioned. As the implications of this momentous decision sank in, King Zorn approached the podium, his regal bearing commanding instant silence. To commemorate this historic alliance, he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber, we shall hold a grand ceremony on Zordax. Let it be a symbol of unity, not just between humans and Risians, but for all species across our great empire. In the days that followed, Patrick and Lyra found themselves swept up in a whirlwind of preparations. Between meetings with diplomats and interviews with galactic media, they barely had a moment alone. Yet in the quiet hours of the night, they sought solace in each other's company. It was during one such moment, sequestered in a private chamber of the Risian palace, that Lyra turned to Patrick, her skin pulsing with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. Patrick, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, I want to experience true intimacy with you. Patrick's heart raced as he gazed into Lyra's eyes. Are you sure? He asked gently, mindful of the cultural differences they were navigating. Lyra nodded, her skin glowing with purpose. I'm sure. Show me what it means to love as humans do. With infinite tenderness, Patrick drew Lyra close. Their first kiss was tentative, exploratory. As they continued, Patrick felt a surge of warmth spreading through his body, matched by the intensifying glow of Lyra's skin. Slowly, reverently, they discovered each other, marveling at the similarities and differences in their physiology. Lyra gasped as new sensations flooded her body. Is it always like this? She asked, her voice filled with wonder. Patrick smiled, brushing a strand of her luminescent hair from her face. It's different every time, he murmured, but always special when it's with someone you love. As they lay together afterward, basking in the afterglow of their union, neither of them could have predicted the ripple effect their intimate encounter would have across the galaxy. News of their successful coupling leaked to the public, sparking a wave of curiosity and openness among the Risian population. Suddenly, interspecies relationships were the talk of the Empire, with many Risians expressing interest in human mating practices. However, not everyone welcomed this development. Reports began to surface of unrest on several Risian colonies. Xander, still at large, seized upon the news to rally his supporters. His propaganda painted humans as a threat to Risian purity, claiming that the royal bloodline was being tainted. As the day of the ceremony on Zordax approached, security forces uncovered a plot by Xander's followers to disrupt the event. Patrick, drawing on his military experience, immediately began working with Risian security to develop countermeasures. The ceremony itself was a spectacle unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Delegates from hundreds of worlds filled the grand amphitheater on Zordax, their diverse forms a testament to the vastness of the Galactic Empire. At the center of it all stood Patrick and Lyra, ready to exchange vows symbolizing the union of their species. King Zorn had just begun to speak when a high-pitched whine filled the air. Patrick's eyes widened in recognition. EMP, he shouted, but it was too late. The electromagnetic pulse washed over the capital, disabling the planetary defense systems. In that moment of vulnerability, Xander's hidden fleet emerged from hyperspace, launching an all-out assault on Zordax. Chaos erupted as diplomats scrambled for safety, and Rizian defense forces struggled to respond. Patrick's military training kicked in instantly. He began coordinating with Rizian military leaders, organizing a defense while ensuring the safety of the assembled dignitaries. To his surprise, Lyra stood resolutely by his side, her eyes blazing with perseverance. "I won't let Xander destroy everything we've worked for," she declared, her skin pulsing with a pattern Patrick now recognized as fierce grit. Together they made their way to the hangar bay, commandeering a Rizian fighter ship. Patrick took the pilot's seat, his hands flying over the unfamiliar controls with growing confidence. Lyra settled into the weapons station, her mind linking with the ship's targeting systems. As they soared into the battle-filled skies above Zordax, Patrick and Lyra found themselves working in perfect synchronization. Human intuition combined with Rizian precision as they engaged Xander's forces, their teamwork proving a formidable match for the enemy fighters. Through the chaos of the dogfight, Patrick spotted Xander's command ship, a massive dark vessel filled with weaponry. He exchanged a quick glance with Lyra, seeing his own tenacity mirrored in her glowing eyes. "Ready?" he asked, his hands tightening on the controls. Lyra nodded, her fingers poised over the weapons interface. "Always." As one, they banked their fighter toward Xander's ship, weaving through a hail of enemy fire. The fate of human-Rizian relations, and perhaps the entire Galactic Empire, rested on the outcome of this confrontation. Patrick gritted his teeth, pushing the fighter to its limits as they closed in on their target. Target! Patrick gritted his teeth, pushing the fighter to its limits as they closed in on Xander's command ship. The massive vessel loomed before them, its dark hull filled with weaponry. "Incoming!" Lyra shouted, her fingers dancing across the weapons interface. Patrick banked hard, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy bolts. The ship shuddered under the strain, but held together. As they wove through the storm of enemy fire, Patrick marveled at their seamless coordination. Lyra's instincts complemented his piloting perfectly, allowing them to anticipate and counter each attack. "Their shields are adapting to our weapons," Lyra reported, her skin pulsing with concentration. "We need to find a weak point." Patrick's mind raced, recalling his military training. "What about combining our technologies, your Rizian energy weapons with our human-style modulation?" Lyra's eyes widened. "Yes, I can reconfigure the weapon systems. Give me 10 seconds. As Lyra worked, Patrick executed a series of tight maneuvers, keeping them out of the enemy's targeting lock. The ship groaned under the G-forces, but Patrick pushed on, trusting in the Rizian engineering. "Ready?" Lyra called out. Patrick lined up their shot. "Fire!" A brilliant beam of energy erupted from their fighter, pulsing with an otherworldly rhythm. It struck Xander's command ship, creating a shimmering disruption in the shields. "We've got a breach!" Lyra exclaimed. Without hesitation, Patrick gunned the engines, aiming straight for the flickering gap in the enemy's defenses. They shot through the opening seconds before the shields resealed, alarms blaring as they entered the massive hangar bay. The fighter skidded to a stop, and Patrick and Lyra leapt out, weapons at the ready. Patrick wielded a modified human pulse rifle, while Lyra carried a Rizian energy staff. They moved in perfect sync, covering each other as they advanced through the ship. Xander's loyal guards poured into the hangar, a mix of Rizians and other alien species. Patrick and Lyra fought back-to-back, their contrasting fighting styles blending into a deadly dance. Patrick's quick, precise shots complemented Lyra's flowing, energy-based attacks. As they pushed forward, Patrick noticed hesitation in some of the alien crew members. He caught Lyra's eye, and she nodded in understanding. "We're not here to hurt you," Patrick called out, lowering his weapon slightly. "We're fighting for a future where all species can coexist peacefully." Lyra stepped forward, her skin glowing with sincerity. "My people have lived in isolation for too long. We've seen the strength that comes from cooperation. Join us in building a better galaxy for all." Their words had an effect. Several crew members lowered their weapons, stepping aside to let them pass. Others fled, leaving only the most fanatical supporters to oppose them. Fighting their way through the ship's corridors, Patrick and Lyra encountered increasingly desperate resistance. They used their environment to their advantage, with Patrick applying human tactical thinking to the Rizian ship layout Lyra knew so well. Finally, they reached the bridge. The doors slid open, revealing Xander surrounded by his elite guard. Patrick's eyes widened as he took in the sight of the disgraced prince. Xander's body was a grotesque fusion of Rizian biology and mechanical parts. His once luminescent skin now dull and scarred. "So the abomination and her human pet have come to challenge me," Xander sneered, his voice distorted by cybernetic enhancements. Lyra stepped forward, her posture regal despite the chaos around them. "Brother, it doesn't have to be this way. We can find a peaceful solution." Xander laughed, a harsh grating sound. "Peace? With these inferior beings? Never. I challenge you, human, to single combat. Let's see if you're worthy of tainting our royal bloodline." Patrick moved to accept, but Lyra's hand on his arm stopped him. "No," she said firmly. "We fight together, as equals." Xander's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. "So be it. Guards, stand down. This is between us." As the guards retreated, Patrick and Lyra readied themselves. Xander's cybernetic limbs whirred as he lunged forward with inhuman speed. Patrick dodged, rolling to the side while Lyra parried with her energy staff. The fight was intense and chaotic. Xander's enhancements gave him incredible strength and speed, but Patrick and Lyra's teamwork proved formidable. They switched seamlessly between human and Rizian combat techniques, keeping Xander off balance. Patrick landed a solid hit on Xander's mechanical arm, causing it to spark and malfunction. Lyra followed up with a sweep of her staff, knocking Xander off his feet. As they pressed their advantage, Xander snarled in frustration. "Why do you resist progress?" he shouted. "Humans are weak, fragile. They'll only hold us back." "You're wrong, Xander," Lyra replied, deflecting another of his attacks. "Our differences make us stronger. Patrick has shown me that." As they fought, Patrick noticed something in Xander's eyes, a flicker of doubt, of fear. He realized that beneath the cybernetic enhancements and hateful rhetoric, Xander was still the insecure prince who had always felt overshadowed by his sister. Patrick saw an opportunity. Between exchanging blows, he spoke. "Your people value strength, right? Real strength comes from facing your fears, from embracing change." Lyra caught on, adding, "Remember when we were children, Xander? How we dreamed of exploring the stars. That curiosity, that openness, that's the true strength of our people." Xander hesitated, his mechanical limbs whirring uncertainly. In that moment of distraction, Patrick and Lyra acted. Moving in perfect harmony, they executed a combination attack they had developed during their most intimate moments together. Patrick swept Xander's legs while Lyra struck with her staff, creating a surge of energy that overloaded Xander's cybernetic systems. Xander collapsed, his mechanical parts sputtering and failing. As he lay there, defeated but alive, the remaining crew on the bridge watched in awe. The power of human-Rizian cooperation was undeniable. Patrick and Lyra stood over Xander, weapons lowered but ready. The fate of the Galactic Empire hung in the balance, waiting to see what would happen next.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.